Good morning. Before you put yesterday's leftovers into the microwave, let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever wondered if reheating some foods could change more than just their taste? Most of us have done it. We make a little extra for dinner, store it in the refrigerator, and warm it up the next day. It feels economical, convenient, and perfectly normal. But what if a few common foods don't respond well to being reheated? What if the way they're stored and warmed creates changes that could affect your health, especially as you get older? As we age, our immune systems often become less resilient. Our bodies may take longer to recover from infections, and chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, or kidney problems can make foodborne illness more serious. That's why understanding how to safely handle leftovers isn't just about avoiding an upset stomach. It's about protecting your long-term health. Now let's be clear right from the start. Despite many alarming headlines online, there is no strong scientific evidence that simply reheating these foods automatically causes cancer. However, the way certain foods are stored, reheated, or repeatedly warmed can increase the risk of harmful bacteria, reduce nutritional value, or create unwanted compounds under certain cooking conditions. Those are real concerns worth understanding. Today, we're going to look at 4 foods that deserve extra attention before you reheat them. Some may already be sitting in your refrigerator right now. Along the way, I'll explain what the research actually says, separate myths from facts, and share simple habits that can make your meals safer. And be sure to stay until the end, because the last food surprises many people. It's one of the most commonly reheated foods in households around the world, yet many people unknowingly make the same mistake with it every week. Let's begin with a food that almost everyone has eaten at least once as leftovers. Rice. It may seem harmless. After all, rice doesn't spoil as quickly as meat, and many people think that if it's reheated until steaming hot, it's completely safe. Unfortunately, that's not always true. Imagine this familiar situation. You make a large pot of rice for dinner. After the meal, everyone is tired, so the pot sits on the kitchen counter for several hours before someone remembers to put it in the refrigerator. The next day, you microwave a bowl until it's hot and enjoy it for lunch. It seems perfectly reasonable. But here's the hidden problem. Uncooked rice can naturally contain spores from a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. Think of spores as tiny protective shells that help certain bacteria survive harsh conditions. Cooking the rice kills many germs, but these spores can survive normal cooking temperatures. If cooked rice is left at room temperature for too long, those surviving spores may begin to grow into bacteria. Some of those bacteria can produce toxins. And here's the important part. Some toxins are heat stable, meaning reheating the rice later may kill the bacteria, but it may not destroy the toxins they already produced. That's why food safety experts often emphasize that the biggest danger isn't necessarily reheating rice. It's how the rice was handled before it was reheated. For older adults, this matters even more. A younger, healthy person might recover quickly from food poisoning, but someone over 65 could experience more severe dehydration, weakness, or complications, especially if they already have health conditions. Fortunately, preventing this problem is surprisingly simple. Once your meal is finished, don't leave cooked rice sitting out for hours. Let it cool briefly, then refrigerate it within about 2 hours. If the room is especially hot, such as during summer or at an outdoor gathering, it's even better to refrigerate it sooner. When you're ready to eat it again, reheat only the portion you need. Make sure it's steaming hot all the way through. If you're unsure whether the rice has been sitting out too long, or if it's been in the refrigerator for several days, it's usually safer to throw it away than take the risk. Some people also develop a habit of reheating the same container of rice over and over, taking a little each day. That repeated cooling and warming isn't ideal. Instead, divide leftovers into smaller containers when you first store them. That way, each portion is only reheated once. These simple habits may not sound dramatic, but they're exactly the kinds of everyday decisions that help protect your health over time. There's another point that's often overlooked. Many people assume that if food smells fine, it's safe to eat. Unfortunately, harmful bacteria don't always announce themselves with a strange odor or unusual appearance. Food can look completely normal while still posing a risk. That's why relying on safe food handling is much more dependable than relying on your senses alone. Now, rice isn't the only food that deserves attention. The next one is even more surprising because it's often promoted as one of the healthiest vegetables you can eat. It's packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that support healthy aging. Yet when it's stored or reheated improperly, problems can arise. Not because the vegetable itself is dangerous, but because of how people commonly handle it. Before we get to that, think about your own kitchen for a moment. How often do you cook a large batch of vegetables for several meals? Do you leave the pot on the stove while you clean up? Do you reheat the same leftovers day after day? Small habits like these can make a bigger difference than many people realize. The next food has been surrounded by myths for years. Some people believe reheating it creates cancer-causing chemicals. Others insist it should never be microwaved under any circumstances. The truth is much more balanced, and understanding that truth may help you enjoy this healthy food more safely. Let's take a closer look at spinach and why the real concern is very different from what most people have been told. Spinach has earned its reputation as one of the healthiest foods you can put on your plate. It's rich in vitamins A, C, and K, along with folate, magnesium, and plant compounds that help protect your cells from everyday wear and tear. For many older adults, spinach is an excellent addition to a balanced diet because it supports bone health, eye health, and overall nutrition. So why do so many people say you should never reheat it? The answer begins with a misunderstanding that has spread online for years. You may have heard that reheating spinach creates cancer-causing chemicals. The evidence simply doesn't support that claim. There is no strong scientific proof that reheating spinach by itself causes cancer. However, there's a small piece of science behind the myth. Spinach naturally contains nitrates. That might sound alarming, but nitrates are found naturally in many vegetables, including lettuce, celery, and beets. In fact, for most people, vegetables are one of the healthiest sources of nitrates because they come packaged with fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants. Under certain conditions, though, nitrates can be converted into compounds called nitrites. In very specific situations, nitrites can react with proteins to form compounds known as nitrosamines. Some nitrosamines have been linked to cancer in laboratory studies, but this process is much more closely associated with heavily processed meats than with properly handled vegetables. The bigger concern with leftover spinach is actually food safety. Like many cooked vegetables, spinach should not be left sitting at room temperature for hours. Warm temperatures give bacteria a chance to multiply. Once again, the issue isn't the reheating itself, it's what happens before the reheating. Picture a family gathering. A large dish of creamy spinach sits on the buffet table all afternoon, while everyone enjoys conversation. Later that evening, someone places the leftovers in the refrigerator and plans to eat them the next day. The spinach may still look fresh, it may even smell perfectly normal, but bacteria can grow without changing the smell, taste, or appearance of the food. This is especially important for older adults because the immune system naturally changes with age. A foodborne illness that causes mild discomfort in a younger person may lead to dehydration, hospitalization, or other serious complications in someone in their 70s or 80s. The good news is that safe handling is simple. After cooking spinach, refrigerate it promptly in shallow containers so it cools more quickly. When you're ready to enjoy it again, reheat only the amount you plan to eat. Heat it thoroughly until it's steaming throughout, and avoid reheating the same portion multiple times. If the leftovers have been sitting in the refrigerator for several days, and you're uncertain how long they've been there, it's usually wiser to prepare a fresh serving. There's another interesting point many people don't realize. Cooking methods matter. Lightly steaming spinach often preserves more nutrients than boiling it for a long time. If you do reheat it, using gentle heat for only as long as necessary may help retain more of its vitamins while still making it safe to eat. In other words, spinach is still one of the healthiest vegetables available. The key isn't avoiding leftovers altogether, it's storing and reheating them correctly. Now let's move to a food that many families prepare every week. It's a favorite at holiday dinners, backyard barbecues, and simple weeknight meals. Many people believe it's perfectly safe to warm it up again and again without giving it much thought. But according to food safety experts, this food is responsible for more cases of serious foodborne illness than many people realize. That food is chicken. Chicken is an excellent source of lean protein, which becomes increasingly important as we grow older. Protein helps maintain muscle strength, supports healing, and plays a vital role in staying active and independent. Many seniors actually don't get enough protein, making chicken a smart choice when prepared safely. So where does the problem begin? Raw chicken can naturally carry bacteria such as Salmonella and Campylobacter. Proper cooking destroys these harmful bacteria. But once cooked chicken begins to cool, new risks can appear if it's not stored correctly. Imagine you've just finished a family dinner. The roasted chicken remains on the dining table while everyone enjoys dessert and conversation. Hours pass before the leftovers finally make it into the refrigerator. Those hours matter Bacteria grow fastest in what's often called the danger zone, a temperature range between refrigeration and high cooking heat. The longer cooked food stays in this range, the greater the opportunity for bacteria to multiply. Many people assume that microwaving leftovers fixes everything. Not necessarily. A microwave can heat food unevenly. One bite may be piping hot while another remains only warm. If parts of the chicken never reach a safe temperature, harmful bacteria may survive. That's why it's important to stir food halfway through reheating whenever possible, or rotate larger pieces so heat reaches every part evenly. If you're reheating chicken in the oven, cover it loosely to help retain moisture while ensuring the entire piece becomes thoroughly hot. Some people also worry that reheated chicken becomes toxic because its proteins change. In reality, proteins naturally change structure whenever they're cooked, whether it's the first time or the second. That change is normal and not considered harmful. The real concern is improper storage and uneven reheating, not the protein itself. There's another common mistake that's easy to overlook. Many households repeatedly warm the same container of chicken over several days. Each time it's removed from the refrigerator, warmed, cooled, and returned again, bacteria have another opportunity to grow if the food spends too much time at room temperature. A safer approach is to divide leftovers into meal-sized portions right away. Reheat only what you'll eat that meal and leave the rest chilled until needed. It's also worth remembering that leftovers don't last forever. Even when refrigerated, cooked chicken should be eaten within a few days. If you can't remember when you cooked it, it's better not to guess. Throwing away one meal is far better than risking a serious illness. One simple habit can make an enormous difference. Label leftover containers with the date before placing them in the refrigerator. It takes only a few seconds, but it removes the uncertainty later in the week. You'll know exactly what's still fresh and what should be discarded. By now, you've probably noticed a pattern. The biggest risks aren't usually hidden chemicals created during reheating. They're everyday food safety habits that many of us learned incorrectly or simply never thought much about. And that brings us to the final food. This one surprises almost everyone because it's found in nearly every kitchen. People reheat it in soups, sauces, casseroles, pasta dishes, and breakfast recipes without a second thought. Yet if there's one leftover that deserves extra attention before you warm it up again, it's this one. The reason has less to do with cancer than with something many viewers may have experienced without ever realizing the true cause. Let's look at that final food next, and it may completely change how you handle your leftovers from now on. The final food is one that almost everyone has in their refrigerator at some point during the week. Eggs. Whether they're hard-boiled, scrambled, made into an omelet, mixed into fried rice, or baked into a breakfast casserole, eggs are one of the most nutritious foods available. They provide high-quality protein, vitamin B12, choline, which supports brain health, and many other nutrients that become increasingly important as we age. So why are eggs on this list? Once again, it's not because reheating eggs has been proven to cause cancer. That claim is not supported by strong scientific evidence. The real concern is how cooked eggs are stored and reheated. Eggs are rich in protein and moisture, making them an environment where bacteria can grow if they're left at room temperature for too long. If harmful bacteria contaminate cooked eggs after they've been prepared, they can multiply surprisingly quickly when the food isn't refrigerated promptly. Imagine making a large breakfast on a Sunday morning. There's scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, and coffee. After everyone finishes eating, the pan of scrambled eggs stays on the stove while the family talks, cleans the kitchen, or watches television. By the time someone remembers the leftovers, they've been sitting out for several hours. The next morning, they're reheated in the microwave and served again. Most of the time, nothing happens. But sometimes improper storage creates an opportunity for bacteria to grow. Reheating may kill many bacteria, but depending on how long the food has been left out and what bacteria are present, the meal may no longer be as safe as you expect. That's why food safety experts recommend refrigerating cooked eggs within about 2 hours after cooking, or sooner if the room is especially warm. If you're reheating scrambled eggs or an egg casserole, make sure they're heated evenly all the way through. Just as with chicken, microwaves can leave cold spots where bacteria may survive. There's another reason people sometimes dislike reheated eggs. The texture changes. Have you ever noticed that scrambled eggs become rubbery after microwaving? That's because the proteins tighten as they're heated again, squeezing out moisture. While that doesn't make them dangerous, it does affect the quality. One simple trick is to reheat eggs gently, using lower microwave power, or warm them slowly in a covered pan with a small splash of water or milk. This helps them stay softer and more enjoyable to eat. If hard-boiled eggs have already been peeled, keep them refrigerated in a covered container and eat them within a few days. If an egg develops an unusual smell, slimy texture, or you've forgotten how long it's been in the refrigerator, don't take chances. When in doubt, throw it out. That simple rule has protected families for generations. Now that we've covered all 4 foods, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. You may have noticed something surprising. This wasn't really a story about 4 dangerous foods. It was a story about 4 foods that require safe handling. The internet often turns nutrition into frightening headlines. Never eat this. This food causes cancer. Doctors won't tell you. But real health advice is usually more balanced. Most foods aren't inherently dangerous because they're reheated. Instead, problems arise when food is left at unsafe temperatures, stored too long, or reheated improperly. That's encouraging news because these are habits you can improve starting today. Here are a few simple reminders that are worth keeping in mind every time you prepare leftovers. First, refrigerate cooked food promptly. Don't let it sit on the counter for hours. Second, divide large meals into smaller containers so they cool more quickly and can be reheated one serving at a time. Third, reheat food until it's hot all the way through, not just warm around the edges. Fourth, avoid reheating the same leftovers over and over again. Fifth, label containers with the date so you know how long they've been stored. And finally, trust food safety guidelines more than your senses. Food doesn't have to smell bad or look spoiled to become unsafe. These habits may sound small, but together they can significantly reduce the risk of foodborne illness, something that's especially important for older adults, whose immune systems may not respond as quickly as they once did. There's another lesson here that's easy to miss. Healthy aging isn't usually built on one dramatic decision. It's built on hundreds of small choices made every single day. Choosing to refrigerate leftovers promptly, checking the date before reheating, preparing only the portion you'll actually eat, keeping your refrigerator at a safe temperature, washing your hands before handling food, cooking meat thoroughly. Each habit may seem insignificant on its own, but over months and years, they become part of a lifestyle that supports better health. That's true not only for food safety, but for almost every aspect of healthy aging. Walking a little each day, eating more vegetables, getting enough sleep, staying socially connected, managing stress, keeping regular medical appointments. None of these habits promise perfect health, but together they can help reduce risk and improve quality of life. It's also important to remember that nutrition advice continues to evolve as new research becomes available. Scientists are always learning more about how food affects our bodies. That's why it's wise to rely on trusted health organizations and qualified healthcare professionals rather than alarming social media posts designed to attract clicks. If you ever have questions about your diet, especially if you have diabetes, kidney disease, heart disease, or another chronic condition, talk with your doctor or a registered dietitian. Personalized advice is always more valuable than one-size-fits-all recommendations online. Before we finish, let's quickly review today's 4 foods. Rice should be cooled and refrigerated promptly because bacteria can grow if it's left at room temperature too long. Spinach is still an excellent vegetable, but like all cooked vegetables, it should be stored safely and reheated properly. The fear that reheating spinach automatically causes cancer is not supported by strong scientific evidence. Chicken is a nutritious source of protein, but it must be refrigerated promptly and reheated evenly to reduce the risk of foodborne illness. And eggs remain one of the healthiest foods you can eat, provided they're stored safely and reheated thoroughly after refrigeration. The message isn't to fear these foods, it's to respect them. Food is one of the greatest tools we have to support healthy aging. When we prepare it carefully, store it properly, and enjoy it as part of a balanced diet, we're giving our bodies the best chance to stay strong, active, and independent for years to come. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me today. I hope this information helps you feel more confident the next time you open your refrigerator and reach for yesterday's leftovers. Now I'd love to hear from you. How old are you? And which country are you watching from? Which of these 4 foods surprised you the most? And do you have a food safety tip that's worked well in your own kitchen? Your experience may help someone else in our community make a healthier choice. If you found this video helpful, consider sharing it with a friend or family member, especially someone who regularly cooks for older adults. Sometimes a simple reminder about safe food handling can make a meaningful difference. Until next time, take good care of yourself, stay informed, and remember, healthy aging isn't about being perfect. It's about making small, smart choices that protect your health, one meal at a time.